afternoon, America. How y'all doing? Shelby, Chris, Steve. Everybody doing all right?
Doing all right. How's it going?
Pretty dang good. Y'all have a rocking good weekend?
It was an eventful weekend.
We'll talk a little bit about
Yeah.
that. I think I probably had a lot less work involved in my weekend than the three of you guys did, but we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I guess what we're going to talk about tonight is hand counting of ballots, right? We've got a lot of people out there, a lot of the left-wing machine is out there saying, oh, you can't hand count. It's too expensive. It takes too long. You can't trust humans, right? We have to rely on these machines to tell us what's right?
Absolutely.
And so, yeah.
Well, and what's interesting about that is we're going to bring on a special guest today, Mark
Mhm.
Cook, who's an IT expert.
Right.
And I think he's going to kind of give that counter argument of,
Mhm.
well, guess what, people? You can't trust machines either. Why? Because they're programmed by the humans you say can't be trusted.
Right.
Right.
They're
Right.
black boxes. You
Yeah.
can program to do whatever you want to program
Right.
to do. They'll follow instructions really well. It's
Yeah.
just you have to be in control of who's giving those instructions.
Right.
You can't trust who's giving.
Well, and what's the difference, right? If I've got two people here and I'm not sure who I can trust and who I can't in a hand count,
Uh-huh.
then there's always somebody else there to keep them in check, right?
Right.
But the same is not necessarily true when you're dealing with tabulators
Right.
and black boxes.
Mm-hmm.
Who holds the machine accountable?
Nobody. Yeah.
And they resist that too. The
Yeah.
lack of transparency into
Right.
elections and how they get conducted and the data. It's getting more and more difficult to get a hold of that data.
Right.
Be able to hold our elected officials or the bureaucrats accountable for how they do our
Right.
elections.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, a
And
quick.
didn't they used to count ballots by hand before the 1970s?
Oh, yeah. We, I grew up counting. We were counting ballots by hand. I'm an old dude. Much older than you two, and we didn't get rid of hand counting until well after 1990s, right? When did Arizona adopt electronic voting machines?
It was somewhere around the mid 90s. I want to
Yeah.
say, ironically, around the same time that they adopted universal mail in ballots.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so, I guess maybe the best place to start, right? Because you have Arizona's Secretary of State, a left wing, a radical left wing Democrat. I mean, Adrian Fontes. Although he's very good with words. He knows how to throw words around. But he's a radical left wing Democrat. Him and Chris Mays, the Attorney General. The Attorney General should step down and resign. I just want to throw this out there right now. Did you hear her comments about Arizona law and whether or not people could just start capping on ice when they come through the door?
Absolutely, I did.
Right.
She's getting a lot of criticism over
Yeah.
that. And I
She-
think
she
members
should
of her own
resign.
party are asking her
Right.
to retract it or potentially
Right.
resign.
Well, and,
Absolutely.
then the next day she puts on a badge, a shirt with a badge sewn on it. And, I'm so pro law enforcement. But really, what did she do? She gave tacit, implicit authority to their followers, to potentially start shooting at federal law enforcement when they come through their door. Right. But she says, oh, well, people wearing masks. Well, who else wears masks? You've got the local Phoenix Police Department SWAT team, right? They go in,
Absolutely.
they serve no-knock warrants with masks. Right? Are they going to, is it legitimate to start shooting at them under her rational theory? She has endangered the lives of all law enforcement in the state of Arizona, and she should resign. Her party should kick her out.
Right.
Is what they should do. But I just wanted to go on that little train there because what she has done, puts everybody at risk.
I agree.
So
But anyway,
So we the people,
Yeah.
USA Alliance has a hand count method.
Yeah.
In conjunction with others, and we'll get into that.
right.
So What's next? Do we want to actually dive into that and show people how that works?
First of all, I think we should talk about whether or not hand counts are legally allowed in the state of Arizona,
Good
Absolutely.
point. Let's
right?
do
Because
that.
we have the leftists saying they're not. We can't do hand
Well,
counts.
and in all fairness, it's not just the leftists. I
Right.
mean, unless you're more discussing ideology versus political affiliation, because we've got multiple boards of supervisors that
Mhm.
identify as Republican or
Right.
right leaning that are also parroting this same conversation that hand counts are not allowed in Arizona,
Mhm.
and that 16 dash, I believe it's 443, prohibits the use of hand counts in the state of Arizona.
Yeah, nothing could be further from the truth. Steve, can we pull up 16443, which is number 1? And we'll just show you what the statute says, and we'll talk about it real quick. And so we'll just talk about 3 statutes before we actually get to the procedures and processes that have been created to actually do hand counts.
I think that would be great.
Yeah.
And, we have here in Arizona one of the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors, Republican Debbie Lesko,
Uh-huh.
who is one of the ones that has her PowerPoint,
Right.
and she's going from legislative district to legislative district, putting on a presentation talking about
Mm-hmm.
how 16443 prohibits the boards of supervisors in the states of Arizona to conduct a full hand count. And so I think this is really
Well,
important.
Yeah. Now, what she's doing is intentionally conflating issues, right? And so, let's take a look at 16443. Okay, here we are. Can you zoom that? Okay, wait. All right. Okay, so basically, what it says is, and you have to listen to the language. At all state, county, city, or town elections, agricultural improvement district elections, and primary elections, ballots or votes may be cast, recorded, and counted by voting or marking devices and vote tabulating devices as provided in this article. And so what Debbie Lesko is saying is sort of true and sort of not true, right?
Right.
You go
Correct.
out and you wanna get support, you throw out a half truth, right? So 16443 says that counties like Maricopa County or Yavapai County or Cochise County may use electronic tabulating.
Now, can we have a
devices.
lawyer please define
Right.
the technical word may versus shall? Because I think a lot of
Yeah.
people still, it's very complex, Brian.
Yeah, may and shall. Well, first of all, if there's anybody out there that doesn't know the difference between may and shall, because they pretty much apply the same in the legal context, shall is an affirmation. You must, you have to do it, right? And so you may choose to do so if you want, right? And so this issue has already somewhat been litigated, but let's go ahead and pull up number 2, Steve. And so number 2 is 16602, and 16602 is what Lesko is focusing on. It's the audit procedures,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
All right, that's fine. I've got it pulled up on my computer.
So now,
okay?
Brian, 16602 talks about the hand count audit requirements when electronic voting devices are
That
used.
is
Is that correct?
100% correct. And so if you look at 16602A, it says for any primary, special, or general election in which votes are cast on an electronic voting machine or tabulator, right? And so this entire section, because people were concerned about, tabulators or electronic voting devices, how are we going to know they're accurate, right? So what the legislature did was they passed this, in my opinion, a very, very crappy statute, if I may use the term, because what the legislature then adopted with 16602 is known as a risk limiting audit, right? It specifies the number or percentage of ballots you have to hand tabulate, and then if the difference from the audit is, X percentage difference or bigger, then you have to count more, right? If it's smaller or equal to, then you accept the tabulator result, right? It's a risk limiting audit. Starts with a very small number of ballots, and so, but risk. What does risk limiting sound like to you? Does it sound like an actual audit?
Yeah, it sounds like they're limiting the risk of being caught. I think that's what risk limiting means.
Well,
Right. They're limiting the risk of having to redo the entire election or whatever the case may be. They wouldn't have to do that in Arizona, right? If they would simply have to count all the ballots over by hand.
that's right. And so I
Uh-huh.
want to ask you about that.
Yeah.
Does 16602 and this risk limiting audit, does it then state we have to use machines, or is this statute basically kind of nullified? So if our counties chose to do a complete hand count, then there would be no force of law of 16602, right?
100% correct. And if we pull up let's see here, go to the number 4, Steve. And so I was involved in the Cochise County litigation after the 2022 election when the Cochise County Board of Supervisors wanted to do a hand count of 100% of their ballots, right? They wanted to audit 100% of their ballots. And so, the big left wing national attorneys came into Arizona and
I think it was like Perkins,
Mark
Cooey, Mark
Elias.
Elias.
Right. That whole clown cast of characters come to Arizona and said, "Oh, you can't do it. You can't do it." And we thought we had a reasonable interpretation of Arizona law, differed from theirs, so we went to trial. We did it, and it was appealed. And the appellate court basically said, "You have that opinion, Steve?"
It's the Cochise County
Yeah, I'm
ruling.
bringing it up right now.
Oh, okay. And
Thank
so,
you.
basically, what the Arizona Court of Appeals had found was that these statutes, and so this is the opinion here, but I'm going to read from paragraph 19, and it says that the county was required to follow the procedures mandated by the plain language of Section 16602, which creates a gradual multi-step process that must be satisfied before a jurisdiction-wide hand count audit of all precincts or early ballots may occur. And then it goes to, was that? Here in a parenthetical, the provisions of all state laws relating to elections apply to all elections where electronic tabulation devices are used. Because the legislature provided for a detailed method to verify the results from electronically tabulated voting machines, counties must follow that method unless and until the legislature determines otherwise. So what the appellate court is saying is 16602 applies when counties elect to use electronic tabulation equipment. Right. And so 16602 has no applicability if a county decides not to use electronic tabulating equipment and to institute a hand count rather than spend millions of dollars every year on these. Do you know how much, Chris, they spend on these machines every year? Yeah.
I have seen numbers on the order of 14 million, 20 million, 8 million. So
A year?
they're constantly upgrading. They're constantly upgrading this equipment.
Yeah.
And they find reasons to upgrade it. Like when the state did its audit of the 2020 election, they decided to repurchase all those machines because they claimed that they had been soiled, so they had to replace them.
Right.
So they're constantly spending millions of dollars each year to upgrade and replace.
So
Right.
essentially, Brian, how and you can help me, but I'm going to kind of break this down. And what I perceive you're saying is 16443 says
Uh-huh.
you as a county may use voting machine.
Right.
If you elect to do so,
Uh-huh.
then 16602 applies. Therefore, you can't do a complete hand count audit.
Correct.
You have to follow the rules
Right.
laid out in statute if you choose to use the tabulators. However, if you choose to do a full hand count as
Mhm.
your official results,
Right.
16602 doesn't apply, and there's nothing prohibitive of that.
That's 100% correct. And the appellate court was aware that the statutes, they do ultimately allow for a full jurisdictional hand count audit if the specified percentile parameters are first met, right? And so the difference between the hand count results and the machine results have to be a certain percentage before you go to the next threshold, and then ultimately you can do a full jurisdictional hand count audit. But they apply only to machine-based elections. They don't apply to a hand count election, right?
Right.
And so, we don't in the state of nowhere in the state of Arizona do they? They don't vote on a device itself, correct?
No, all of
Right.
our, other than ADA, there's some ADA compliant machines.
Right.
But aside from that, we use only paper ballots in
Right.
the state of Arizona.
Right.
So I guess what kind of gives us an advantage to some of these states that are all digital,
Right.
because at least we have the paper ballots as a
Mhm.
backup. But Ye-
That's been a source of confusion, though, when we're challenged here in Arizona to use full paper ballots, and the opposition claims, well, we already have full paper ballots, but we are still using machines to count them.
correct.
So,
And we cannot forget that we're using machines to make corrections, adjudications, and duplications, right?
Right.
Which modifies those ballots in a digital
Right.
fashion and then regenerates them digitally. So
Right.
it's not 100% paper ballots in
Mhm.
that context, right?
that's right.
Right.
And it is still 100%. We're still using machines to count 100% of those.
Correct.
So the machines are still, the black boxes are still in the process.
And if anyone wants to know just how dangerous a black box is, you guys are aware of the suicides that have happened because AI basically convinced the young person that they should just go away, right? So this artificial intelligence has literally convinced young people to dispatch themselves, right? And so that's the full extent that we can trust a computer. That you can't even leave your kids alone with it anymore because it'll attack them.
Yeah.
And so, hand counting votes involves people, doesn't it? It involves community.
A lot of people. And
Right.
even though they consider that a criticism, I
Right.
think it's a plus add.
Oh,
The
100%.
more people from all walks of life
Right.
and spectrums of political beliefs and perspectives that we have participating
Right.
in our electoral process,
Mhm.
in helping to certify those results and putting these people into place that are going to be
Right.
leading our country. I see that as a bonus. But, I
Mhm.
think there's probably somebody that knows way more about black boxes than any of us
Yeah.
that can really put that into perspective, the dangers of the
Mhm.
black box. Should we bring on our guest,
Yeah, Mark.
Cook?
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve, if you can pull in Mark, that would be great. So Mark Cook actually assisted us in developing the We the People accountable method. So we co-developed this method, but in addition, he's also the director and founder of Hand Count Roadshow. Hand Count Roadshow is his passion's work, and we'll let Mark tell you more about it. But he literally goes anywhere they will have him on his own dime or on the generous donations of people like you to talk about the dangers of the black box and why hand count is the only way America should count their ballots. Welcome, Mark.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
So I don't know if you heard some of the background conversation here, but we were talking about the black box. Do you want to give your insight into the dangers of using tabulators and the black box and what that does to the safety and security of our elections?
Totally destroys it, actually. And you had a good point earlier. Is that the complaint I hear from some is that I don't like hand counts because I don't trust my neighbors. I don't trust those Democrats down the street, or I don't trust those Republicans next door. And basically, what people are saying, and they don't even realize it, which is what kills me, is I'll translate. They're saying, I don't trust that person that lives in that house right there. And I trust some unknown person in Venezuela more than I trust that person that lives in that house that I see mow their lawn every Sunday, which is the most absurd thing to me to hear people say. And a lot of people don't even realize that's what they mean. They're just not saying it. Until you walk them through that, they really don't get it.
Mhm.
And to just blindly trust unknown people, like you said, programming your system that can change it at any time they want. You've got contractors that show up, even if, let's say, you totally trust the voting system vendors, which, by the way, don't ever do that. But even if you did trust the voting system vendors, what other hands are in there? How do you know that that one person that comes in there to do that one quick update doesn't change the way the operating system functions? And a lot of people think, oh, well, they wouldn't be able to do that. You can change the functionality of a computer by changing a single 0 to a 1 or a 1 to a 0. It takes one bit to completely change the way that the computer works. So it's
Well,
absolutely crazy that people blindly trust these black boxes that count our votes. And it's not just the black boxes that count our votes, but the entire ecosystem of the voter registration computer systems, the signature verification computer systems, the tabulation computer systems, and then the reporting, the result reporting computer systems. There's a multitude of different layers of computer systems run by a bunch of different companies, of which the citizens have no clue who any of these people are. Our election officials don't know who these people are. Our legislators don't know who these people are. There is no way to control this system. There's no way to have oversight. And we are trusting every aspect of our lives to all these processes that most people don't even understand how they work in the first place. And all we're doing is we're marking dots on a piece of paper, and we're counting the dots, and whoever has the most dots wins. I mean, it's ridiculous that we're 5 years, into this whole ordeal, just since 2020 alone, and we're still arguing over counting the dots and adding the dots up. And the only people that would object to the citizens counting their own dots and adding the dots up are those that benefit from a system that is able to count the dots in a special way that benefits them. And as Joseph Stalin said, it doesn't matter who votes, it matters who counts the vote. And the people that
mhm.
are counting the votes and running the elections are not the citizens of this country. And last I checked, this country belongs to the people, it belongs to the citizens, and our election systems also belong to the citizens. So we've got
Well,
to get people's head back on straight here. This is
yeah.
bizarro world that we're arguing
Is,
over this.
is what you're saying is that we, the people, when we use machines, have no effective check and balance on our elections and the election equipment when machines are used, right?
Don't even
Y-
have a chance at this. I mean, this Article 4,
Right.
Section 4 of our Constitution guarantees us a Republican form of government. With the
Uh-huh.
existing systems we don't have any mechanism to determine if we have a Republican form of government or not.
Mhm.
So these existing systems, I believe, and I'm not the attorney, but I would think they're constitutionally in violation of Article 4, Section 4, which is the guarantee clause of our Constitution.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting point of view, and I'm not going to comment on it until I've actually given it some more thought. But do you spend a lot of time then working with people? Because when you talk to people and they say, "Oh, I don't trust Bob across the street," you explain to him that you know, you can't check what's happening in the computer, but if you also go sit next to Bob to count ballots and dots, then you can effectively be a check on Bob, right? And then Bob
You don't
can
even have to like
effectively
Bob.
be a check on you, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
When it's all transparent, it doesn't matter. You could have
Right.
convicted felons tabulating the ballots. And if it's done where you can see it, and with
Uh-huh.
what I love about the accountable method that we put together is that you have multiple layers of transparency on top of even the people that are there. So you can bring other people that weren't able to physically be there during the count. They all of a sudden they don't have to trust because they can actually pull up the ballot images, they can pull up the video, and they're afforded the ability to verify it themselves. So instead of mandating that people must trust their elections, we
Right.
can have a system that the elections can earn that trust.
Right.
Well,
Earned
let's,
trust
let's
is
go
far
back
better
to
than
Bob.
mandated.
Let's talk about Bob again for a minute, right?
Mhm.
Would you rather, so let's say you're sitting next to Bob
Mhm.
and you're watching Bob, and Bob's doing some funny things with the hand count.
You're messing up here, Bob.
Right? Yeah, Bob, you're really,
I'm gonna rat
really
you out,
messing up.
man.
You know where Bob lives,
Yeah,
right?
I know
And
where
you can
Bob
go,
lives.
hey, Bob, what you did was wrong, and we're
Right.
going to hold you accountable as a community
Uh-huh.
for doing these things, Bob.
Uh-huh.
What do you do with the black box? Shame on you, black
Right.
box. I think,
Well,
you know,
yeah.
right?
More
There's-
importantly, though, to your analogy, is I'm sitting next to Bob watching Bob. I can stop Bob's behavior on the spot, talk to the elections officials, and get Bob either slapped upside the head and straightened out or removed and
Right.
replaced.
Not
Just
a black
replace
box,
Bob.
The lights
Right.
are on in the room.
Right. What I don't have that power with the
Right.
black box, right? And so I like how Adrian Fontes and his sidekick, what's his name? The former county recorder here,
Stephen Richer.
Stephen
Richer.
Yeah. I like how we have the whole election at MC Tech on video, right? You can watch, right? You can watch them stick shit tons of paper. Sorry about that. You can watch them stick reams of paper into a machine and disappear. You don't know until they report numbers at the end of the day.
Right. Because
Right?
you're not seeing every ballot. And to Mark's point, the beauty of the accountable method that we've developed is that there is always a check and balance.
Mhm.
And if there's an error that occurs during that count, whether it be intentional and nefarious or whether it just be somebody's tired, or we hear this a lot. Well, there's people can be incompetent. So let's say they're tired, they have bad vision, they're corrupt, or they're incompetent.
Mhm.
That can easily be identified, corrected, and rectified right there in real time on the spot, so that any of those spectrums of errors,
Right.
regardless of the origin or the reason,
Mhm.
can be found and corrected before we get a result, right? So there is no need at that point. I mean, obviously, we're all about auditing, but we won't need to go back and correct anything because those corrections will be made as we move through the process. And that's what we want to talk about is that process.
What was that? What was that, Steve? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, Shelby, because we've gone through this process so many times with a fine tooth comb. We've actually had people mark things wrong on purpose. We've asked people to do things wrong to test the system, and it gets caught right away. It doesn't get past the first group of people that are sitting there counting it. It gets
Right.
identified immediately, so that even if people are intending on cheating in hand count method, you can't get away with it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Mark, my favorite thing about hand counting ballots, you know what that is?
What
It's
is it?
like you bring people together. You bring people together.
And maybe
People-
we'd like Bob if we sat at a table with Bob. What do you think, Brian?
Right. We bring members of our community together into the same house, whether it be a church, a school, or whatever they're using as a precinct polling place. We bring these people together, and we might not like each other, right? We might have
But
more
how would you know if you
respect-
don't talk to each other?
I agree, but we might have we might not like each other, but until we count ballots together, we might, at the end of the day, have far more respect for one another and far more faith and trust in our system of elections if we were the check and the balance on each other, right?
Absolutely. And you
that's
and
the-
Bob can think different things. Well, you know,
Right.
you can feel differently about a policy, but you can both agree that your votes must count. That's the whole point of this. And if you both take part in ensuring the integrity, the purity of our elections, then we'll let the chips fall where they fall.
Yeah, and if Brian and I, Bob, counted votes together, then we know we did a good job, even if we disagreed on the outcome.
Right.
Wanted the outcome to be, we know that we got the outcome that was called for by the vote. Those
Right.
dots on the page.
Well, and the interesting part about that is we've administered multiple elections. Mark, you've come out here, you've administered some of those elections with us. You've administered some elections elsewhere, and then we've done elections here, none of which were non contentious. Every single election that we've administered has been very competitive and very contentious. But the one thing, and we'll get into more detail about that, just this last weekend, we did a hand count, and there were people there that were clearly voting for opposite candidates, and it was a very tight, razor thin margin. But the one thing you saw in that tally room that was different than what you saw in the crowd is the people in the tally room were talking to each other. They were smiling with each other.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter what candidate they were in there to count for. They were having fun. They were trusting the process. And they were enjoying the fact that they could walk away and be proud
Right.
of the results that we produced.
Right.
And that is what you're talking about, bringing people together in the community and the viability and the trust involved when you sit down, not just with the neighbors you agree with, but the ones you don't, and say, you know, we're gonna do this together so that we as Americans at the end can stand side by side and say this was a good election.
Right.
Right. We
When I
don't
traveled
have
the
anything
na-
like that.
I think
When I
we're
travel the
kind of
nation,
burying the
you know,
lead
I
here.
teach people.
Go ahead.
Yeah, when I teach people how to hand count ballots as I go around, you know, I've done presentations where Democrats show up, and I love having Democrats there because one, I used to be a Democrat. In fact, I was Democrat longer than I was Republican. So I've been on both sides. I'm just a policy based voter, but this discussion seems to have been only Republicans having it for the past 5 years, and I love having events where Democrats show up and we all talk, and being able to unite with our fellow citizens is awesome. Plus, doing the hand count process, sitting there watching Republicans sitting right next to Democrats and disagreeing on policy, but agreeing that we have to have fair elections and working together, joking and talking. They're proud of the process. It's about the process, not about the policy. And that's what's so amazing about unifying with each other on that one facet, which is fair, transparent, verifiable elections.
Right.
Well, I think we should get into how accountable works. But I think before we do that, Mark, we'd like to hear a little bit about your mission at Hand Count Roadshow and some of the experiences that you've had going out into the community and talking to people about our method and about your knowledge of hand counts. Do you want to share some of that?
Sure, I'll give you the brief one because my presentation is normally like 3 hours long, so I'll give you the 3-minute version. So I not only do I
Just
go
kidding.
around, in case anyone doesn't know me, I don't just go around teaching how to hand count paper ballots. Hand counting paper ballots is one part of the solution of all this, but what's happened here is our elections have been stolen from us, and therefore our nation is being stolen from us. So how we reclaim our nation is by reclaiming our elections. So what I go around doing is I go around teaching people what happened, how it happened, and how we get out of this mess and how we unite to get out of it. And the most effective way for me to do it, because I didn't see anyone else doing this, I saw everyone online shouting online, and having these podcasts is really important in the digital domain where a lot of the world operates now is very important. But what a lot of people have missed is the physical domain part of this war. That is down there on the streets, talking to the citizens. And there's so many people as I've been traveling around, because I have a trailer and a truck. I drive around the country, state by state, county by county. I call people as I come into an area, and I try to find out who the citizens are and who the influences are and who can put together a group that want to learn about our elections. And what I find is that a lot of people that I bring together have never heard about this stuff because they're not in that digital domain that we all are in. They don't experience this. They don't see this. They're not educated about this. So when I bring this information to them, some people are seeing it for the very first time. The other thing that's important is in the digital domain, you don't know who people really are. I mean, that person sitting between you two, I mean, that's a wonderful AI model. Um, but you almost can't even, it looks like a real person there. I think his name's Chris. But can you tell, is yeah, it's fake, right? No, I'm kidding. No, Chris is very real. But a lot of people, if you don't travel, you don't actually get to meet these people. So what's great is I know all of you personally. We've spent time together and I know you're real. But someone down the street here in Louisiana, oh yeah, I saw a podcast one time. They don't know you. And it's hard to just blindly believe these faces that are on the screen when you don't really know the people. And that's why I love hand counting paper ballots, because you get to know Bob. So what I do is, my name's Mark, not Bob, but Mark goes to the counties and gets to know people and sits down with them. And when you can sit there face to face with someone, you realize they are very real. And then I can share my story so much more effectively. And I'm not coming here to tell everyone what to do or what to think. I'm coming here to share my experience so they can come to the conclusions based on the facts themselves. But a lot of them, the facts have been kept from them due to this war that we're in. It's an information war, and information is being kept from the people. So that's why the citizens aren't able to make the proper decisions, because they don't have the proper information to base those decisions on. And so that's what I'm doing, is traveling all over the place. I'm in Louisiana right now. When I'm done with Louisiana, I'm going to Alabama. Then I'm going to drop down into the panhandle of Florida. I'm going to go all through Florida, make a great big old U through there, and then up into Georgia. And I'm going to run all the way up on the East Coast, all the way up into Maine, and then back. And I'm going to come through the center part of the country as I move back out west up until the elections coming up here at the end of this year. So I got my work cut out for me.
Well, I tell you, I'd skip Florida and just hit Georgia, where they vote on an actual machine, and they're given nothing but a QR code. Right, here's your QR code, right? And it's like, okay, that's my QR code, but what did the machine, what's the machine going to tell me versus what the machine tells itself, is a whole nother thing. But I mean,
yeah, Mark, Georgia needs you.
Yeah, Georgia needs you badly.
I'm going to Georgia. Don't worry. But Florida begged me. So many people in Florida begged me and begged me and begged me to please make a stop. So I said, all right, God lined it up and it worked just fine. So Florida first, then Georgia. And we're going to have some fun in Georgia, because the people of Georgia have been ripped off so hard, so blatantly, right to their face. And I'm not talking just Republicans. I'm talking about everyone in that state is getting ripped off because the people that are conducting the elections are overriding the will of the people. They have stolen that state from the citizens. And I'm going to blow up the idea, not physically anything, but I'm going to expose what's actually going on. Probably piss
That's
off
a
lot of
better
the
word in today's environment. Expose. I would
It is,
recommend.
Expose rather than.
I recommend that word instead of blow up.
Much better
All
choice.
Right, much better choice.
Good catch. Good catch,
Yeah.
Mark.
Well,
Hey, should we pull up Mark's website?
we should, but I just want to throw out there real quick. That's a very good point you made about the difference between connecting people on an individual level and connecting with people on social media, is because what most people on social media see is just a headline, right? They
And it's controlled by algorithmically. So
Right.
we do have, like on X, we have free speech on X, yes, but we don't have free what we see. because what we see is algorithmically controlled. So it's not
Right.
truly free speech. And so that's what people have to understand, is that's why a lot of people like us are probably throttled. And what they do is the algorithm keeps you siloed. So it makes you think that you have exposure, but it keeps you in these small siloed groups. So
Right.
you don't really have the exposure that you should have organically. So what I would like to see Elon do is give us the option of turning off the algorithm. If someone wants to run algorithm free, give them a switch. You flip the switch, boom, no algorithm. You
Right.
just see whatever it is. And Elon, I know, would appreciate this because he can call it raw dog mode.
Right.
And I know
that,
his
I mean,
sixth
that would
sense of
be
humor
a
would
good
love
thing
that.
to do, but it's just like there's this one guy that we listen to every now and then. He's a lawyer, and he's really jumping on what on Candace, what's her name?
Candace
Candace
Owens.
Owens sort of issue bandwagon. He just started on Twitter, and he's boom, over how many?
You just
About
shot
what?
right up.
50,000, and he's been on for 4 months, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Somebody's pushing him to the top,
Absolutely.
and they're ignoring people who have good, actual, relevant information about what's taking place in our elections. So,
Yeah, and insiders can do that with the algorithm, and people also have figured out how to engineer the algorithm. And what
Yeah.
Twitter does now, or X, is they claim to put out their algorithm, and they don't put all of it out, but they put a majority of it out. And if someone took that algorithm and they knew how it worked, it'd be very easy to reverse engineer the algorithm in order to abuse the algorithm legally by feeding it the right data to get the output you want out of it. And that's kind of what
Hey, why don't
happens
you
to
do
our
that for all
elections
of us?
also.
Hey, why don't you do that for all of
I
us?
can't. I
But,
wouldn't.
So,
But our elections
Before
are
we
run the
you
same
said
way.
legally, in quotes.
Yes, they figured out how
Before
to
we
engineer our
leave this
elections.
point, and put up Mark's website, I remember one time I was sitting next to a coworker who was completely politically unengaged, and we were Facebook friends. And
Okay.
she went to my page, and all of the posts that had political references on my homepage were missing. And so we took a camera and we literally showed my homepage and her homepage side by side, which should have been identical.
Right.
However, they knew she was not in my political silo. And so they extracted things that they did not want her to see. And this was back in 2021,
Right.
well before a lot of this stuff has been coming out and being exposed, and before I was labeled a domestic terrorist by Facebook. But this has been going on for a long, long time. So,
Yes, it has.
okay, are we ready, Steve, to pull up Mark's website? Mark, after he gets that pulled up, give it a second, and we'd like you to kind of walk through some of these things and on the website, some of the tools and various items that are available to people that want to find out more about Hand Count Roadshow, or about Accountable, but also about Hand Count Roadshow and some of the other projects that you're working on.
I'll explain whatever I can. Sure.
You got it, Steve? All right.
All right.
All right. Go ahead, Mark.
Cool.
Why don't you show people how to find the Accountable method and also how to support you and donate and all the different tools and resources?
Okay, so I'll hit it real quick here. So on handcountroadshow.org, which is what we're looking at, I tried to put right on the front what the heck handcountroadshow.org is. And so it's all right there, the mission, the goal, and what I do at each county right there. And there's extra stuff I do at the counties as well, but you find that out when I get there. And then the progressive, oh, that's right. We can scroll down. That's fine. Here, yeah, actually start back up. So the progressive election platform up at the very top, that big red button. I've been asked by people for years, what do we need to do? How do we fix this problem? And so I just put it all together in one simple page. Here's how we do voter registration. Here's how we do mail-in ballots. Here's how we do tabulation, election day and results and reporting and all that. It's all right there. And I also co-authored a proposed executive order for President Trump and what move he can make to help us start down the path of putting elections back into the hands of the American citizens. So that's what it just lays it out right there. I call it the PEP, Progressive Election Platform. And yes, I stole their words because they stole ours. So I stole them back. But this is it. If someone needs to know what's the goal, what's the target, I laid it all out. That's how we actually fixed the problem in full, not just how we fixed one area, the whole thing, holistic repair. And then at the top there, that big red button will take you right to that proposed executive order, so you can read what's been on President Trump's desk. And I have a feeling the whatever we see coming down the pipe, I think is going to be modeled a lot after this executive order. So I do encourage you to read it. And I've also made sure it's been put on the desks of and in the hands of lots of legislators. That's it right there. And you can feel free to download it, share it, print it. And what I'd recommend is print the thing out, take it, and drop it on the desk of every legislator in your capital. And then that QR code will get you right to that same page as well. All right. So then back to the previous page there, a couple or two, right back to the home page, one more back. Okay, that purple button right below the Progressive Election Platform will take you to my Ventura County presentation, which is the longest, most recent full presentation I do from start to finish. So I recommend, if you haven't seen my presentation, that's the one to watch. And right below that, there's a little secret button. If you click on, and you don't have to do this, but if you click on that little picture of the RV, that will bring you to a document called Engineered Theft of a Superpower. And it is a document I wrote for Jim Jordan back in May, 2 years ago now. And I had handed to him on May 13th, I believe, the day before the weaponization hearings, where I laid it out, the whole thing. Here's what's going on. Here's how our superpower, the United States of America, was taken. And it was an engineered takeover using technology on a very sophisticated level to do it. So I recommend, if you want to see the 30,000-foot view of what I had handed, not only to Jim Jordan, but a lot of people in Congress at that time, and they all did jack poop about it. All right, back to the main page there. And then you scroll down, you'll see there's my map right below all this stuff, and that's the upcoming route. So if you want to know where is Mark going to be in this entire year, that's where I'm going to be and about when I will be there. And I'm trying to stick to that as best I possibly can. I live in a very dynamic environment, so I'm trying to be very flexible, but just so people kind of know when to expect me in their neck of the woods, that's it. So if you have not signed up for a visit and you do want me to stop by on my route, please sign up for a visit, because the more places I visit, the more people I can transfer knowledge to and empower with this information. We need to reclaim our country by reclaiming our elections. And it helps me if I make a stop. Sometimes someone helps me put a few gallons of fuel in my tank, which gets me to the next county. So I'm kind of citizen surfing as well while I'm passing on all this knowledge on this wonderful journey around the nation. And then below that, you can see all the events that I've done. Well, the events coming forward actually are right there. And I've already got, look how quick I am. I already got today's on there. And then all the other events I do, sometimes I do remote presentations. If I can't physically be somewhere, I do jump on quite a few podcasts. And those are all the stops I've got planned out, at least for the next month or so. And I'll keep populating that as I have time. And then once you get past the current future stuff, you'll see all my previous events. So if you want to see what the heck I've been doing for the past 3 years, you can scroll all the way down and you can see every single county I have been to on this wonderful, crazy journey that I have put myself on, or God's put me on, for the past 3 years. And it's intensive. I mean, hundreds of counties I have been to. And usually most of my presentations I record and put on there as well. So I've got presentations going back for years. And then you asked how to get to the accountable hand count tabulation method, which is great. And that's right at the very top there in the menu, Get Educated. And then accountable, I think, is the first or second item right on the menu there under Get Educated. There it is, the first one, countable hand count tabulation method. And this, I got to, put this together with a wonderful group of people who were on the screen a few minutes ago, and I had a lot of fun putting it together. And I think it's a fantastic way to hand tabulate ballots in a totally transparent, repeatable method with 2 extra levels of verification on top of it, which I think a lot of there's good hand count methods out there, but not all of them take everything into account. And there's a reason why we designed everything on that tally sheet, and we designed everything in a particular way to also make it conducive to being scanned and given to the citizens, and for video overhead to be able to see what was going on with that extra level of transparency. And so at the very end of this process, not only do people get a paper version of a cast vote record, which is already the existing standard for analyzing elections at the end, but it also gives you ballot images and the video process. And then right below that, we've got a full process explanation button where you click on that. It'll walk you through the step by step process. Then the middle button there will let you join the hand count army, which is what everyone needs to build in their communities and their states. Build an army of citizens that know how to hand count paper ballots. Because I guarantee when we save our country, here's how this is going to look. The citizens are going to be running their elections again. That's the only way this looks. And if the citizens are going to run our elections again when we fix our country, which we're going to do, we better learn how to do it. And why wait? Let's just figure out how to do it right now, get trained up. And then you can leverage that group of citizens that know how to hand count ballots. And you can do a bunch of other things like, show up to commissioner meetings and really start getting involved, because it requires civic engagement. We can't fix this if we sit on our butts and expect other people to do it. You guys out there watching can't fix this problem by letting this group of people talk on a podcast once a week or daily. You can't do that. Everyone has to get involved. This takes all of us. And then you can sign up for a visit there. And then right there under resources, the left side is the time and cost calculator. If you click on that calculator, and yeah, go ahead and click on that for me, Steve. This is really handy because a lot of people ask, well, how long is it going to take? How many people is it going to need, et cetera? And well, this ballot's really complex, or this one isn't. So I built a calculator where you can put all those numbers in, and the calculator will tell you how many people you need, how many tables you need, how long it's going to take. You can put all those numbers in, it calculates it for you, and it tells you how it's calculating it. It's all open. And I wanted to just make it easy for people. So that really helps you. And I'll tell you, I've talked to others around the nation that have used not only the accountable, but other hand count methods. And we plug the same numbers in and we're getting the same times. So it's really accurate calculator, almost regardless of the method you use, as long as it's a decent method. And then there's a packet of information there also available for you. You can download the ballot images, you can download sample tally sheets and practice sheets right there. So everything you need to set up your own little hand count army group is right here on the website. And then I'm available anytime to help give you additional instruction. And I have a feeling Shelby and her group there also can help train people and give them what they need. It's not hard. We're just counting dots. We're marking how many dots we have on what, and then we add the totals up. I mean, that's all it really is. It's not complicated. But it's a process. And then there's a video there. That 10-minute video at the top is awesome to watch because it kind of shows you the whole
You want
thing.
to do it?
So I hope that's a good rundown on it. And I do encourage everyone to watch that video. I don't know if we have time to play it now. We could.
Well, I got a question for you. How many counties have you been to where they actually allow the ballots to be posted online or to be given to the people in terms of government elections? Yeah, do you have any
Ooh,
idea?
it's small. It's a
Very
small
small.
percentage. For some reason, our
Yeah.
government thinks they run the show, and the people there seem to think that the peasants aren't allowed to have copies of this to be able to verify their
Right.
own votes, which is
Right.
bizarre to me. But yeah, it's far lower than it needs to be. Absolutely, we have to
Yeah.
fix that. I want to see a let our data go initiative. I want to see legislation right now going in every state guaranteeing all election data to the people, where our counties just automatically put it all out there. The ballot images, the cast vote records, the voted lists, everything. Don't make the citizens have to ask for it. Literally, these people work for us anyway. Just put the
Right.
information out there, make it standard. Every county puts this stuff out at no charge to the citizens, just automatic. You have to put it out. And that legislation could go in right now. And anyone fighting against that is fighting against transparency blatantly.
Well, you know what I think probably an easier solution to that is for Congress. First of all, they got to get rid of that 60-volt threshold. They've got to dump it, or they won't be able to pass any legislation. It'd probably be easier to do through Congress. Congress pass an act that says all ballots cast in federal elections shall be made public.
Well, you know, we hadn't talked about this a lot publicly, but we the people, USA Alliance, and some of our friends made a trip out to DC and met with some congressmen and senators about doing just that. So we are in the process of drafting some legislation.
Yeah.
They're getting federal funding right now to administer these elections. So there is no reason you should not go across county lines and state lines and have different rules of engagement, right? Different rules of the game.
Right.
Some counties will give you cast vote records. Some say they're illegal to maintain.
Right.
Some will post ballots. Most of them will not. Some of them won't give you public records at all. And some of these states charge such outrageous amounts to receive these records and data that it makes it impossible for the citizens. So we do exactly that, Mark. And we didn't collaborate on this, did we? You had no idea we were working on this project. But yes, we are looking to hopefully get some legislation that will streamline transparency in our elections.
Well, and the big advantage to doing it, to having Congress pass legislation that does just that, is what are the counties going to do then? What are the states going to do? Is Adrian Fontes going to then require counties to have two different ballots, one a federal ballot and one a state local ballot, so that they can keep the state and local ballot private while the federal ballot has to be?
That's exactly what they'll do.
That would significantly blow the cost of elections through the roof.
It will.
And so that that is a choice that they would have to make. They don't have to make.
But what would that say?
What
will that say to the American people if they say, we're going to give you what we have to give you, but anything we don't have to get you, we want to hide from you? Do you think anybody will ever trust a city council election again at that point?
Not a chance. Not a chance.
Right.
It's brilliant. I think we need to do both. It needs to come down from the federal, from top down, and we also need to fix this from the bottom up, because we can't be guaranteed that we're going to have success top down. And ultimately, in the end, Bob, we need to get along with Bob. And Bob's our neighbor. We know Bob, and Bob might be a commissioner, and Bob might be on city council. So we, the people, the citizens, we have to do everything we can within our power in our own communities, as well as what's being done federally. And hopefully we find a solution where it meets up in the middle. That would be great. And I encourage every bit of effort. I tried for a long time from top down. For 2 or 3 years, I fought top down. I spent a lot of time in DC. I spent a lot of time drafting things and having private secret meetings and all that stuff. And it just didn't do much, because we got a lot of feckless people running things, and there's a lot of bribery, blackmail, and threats as well that really runs the show. And ultimately, we have a group of people that run this country that happen to not be the people, and they don't want the people running the country. We're just the useful idiots, the peasants. Pay your taxes and let us do what we do. And I'm not okay with that. It's just not going to happen. That's not what this country was built on. So we're going to fight it at the county level too.
But it takes more of us. It takes more of us in this fight. It's going to take an army, a hand count army, right, Mark?
That's why I did it. That's why I did it.
The best way to compel you to get along with Bob is to make you sit down with Bob and count ballots. Yeah. And then you can both agree.
I would even count ballots.
Your candidate won this time. Maybe mine will win next time. But instead of you sitting next to Bob, let's name some names of people involved in running our elections whom we don't know, right? For example, the large corporation of Microsoft. Microsoft is involved
Amazon.
at all levels of running our elections. Amazon
Yeah.
is involved at all levels of running our elections, right?
You should
Um,
see the documents I found on Microsoft from years ago when they
uh-huh.
first started getting their tentacles in the control of our government.
Yeah,
I'll have to share some of that with you. They've been doing
yeah.
this. This isn't just recent, everyone. This is not since 2020.
Oh, yeah.
This has been a coordinated effort for decades.
Hey, we're gonna go back to your website and show something that we think is important. The
That's my motto.
elections. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, fair elections. Sure, fair elections are the only non-violent means of settling political discourse.
Yep.
Beautiful. Well, I think we should go ahead then. I mean, there's Mark mentioned the video, and Chris seems to want to play it. It's a 10-minute video, but it walks you through the entire accountable method
Mhm.
so that you understand. I mean, we could sit here and conceptually tell you how to do a hand count, but unless you've actually seen it, we did some Zoom trainings. We actually Zoom trained people, Mark, on hand count. And one of my closings was, now go watch this video. And they're like, oh my goodness, thank God for the video, because I was so confused after the Zoom. I needed the video to
I
see
have them
the
watch the
process.
video first, and then I jump on the Zoom after they've watched the
Well,
video and start
Right.
walking them through it. That works real well.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right.
no. Okay, we have an
Yeah.
audio issue, so we won't be playing the video after all.
Yeah. Well, I did want to
Okay.
ask you one more thing, before we went to video, but apparently we're not going to do that. But when I have gone to speak to groups that we have doing hand count training, one thing I always advocate, and I wonder if you advocate the same thing. I always tell them, the only way we're going to get to a level of doing hand counts as a people again, right? As a people deciding who our government representatives will be, is to normalize hand counts. And the way we do that is we go sell hand counts to different organizations, right? Homeowners associations have elections. Unions have elections. All sorts of other organizations have elections. And a lot of these organizations have turned to their local counties to borrow their machines or to actually rent their machines to run their election counts for them, right? They can
I'm glad you brought
call-
that up.
Yeah, they can call organizations like We the People USA Alliance, and we can hook them up with a hand count of their elections that will be 100% transparent, in which their members actually play a functional role. So you can get Bob and Dave sitting together. They might not like each other, but they will be part of the process. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a fantastic idea, and the reason I'm really glad you brought this up is because people don't understand this layer I'm about to share with them, and this is kind of another mind blower here.
Mhm.
So you mentioned that people farm their elections out to other entities to run them for them. In a lot of
Right.
cases, like a municipality will have the county run their municipal election. In fact, that's
Mhm.
what got Tina Peters first interested in what was going on with the city council races, because the city of Grand Junction contracted with the county to run the city's city council election. And that's where that whole election totally got flipped. It went from all conservatives to all progressive candidates in one election. And that's where she first thought something might be up. And of course, she was right, it turns out. So not only is that happening, however, if you look at churches and corporate boardrooms, a lot of
Mhm.
them, not they're not hiring the county to do their elections, but they will hire this electronic clicker company to come
Right.
in. And even GOPs have done it, where they hire the clicker
Mhm.
company to come in and they hand out these digital clickers like your kids use in school. The teacher says, press, A for this, B for this, C or D, right? And they press the button on the clicker and it counts it and shows it on the screen. Well, they're hiring the clicker companies, and there's not many of them. There's a handful of them that travel around all over the country doing this for political parties as well, both sides of the political game, right? They go around and they hand these clickers out. So I went out there as a witness for Rachel Hamm, who is running for Secretary of State of California. And I was out at the GOP convention out in, I think it was Sacramento County, California. And I was there watching this process. And I was her witness behind the scenes. People didn't know I was a computer guy. I just had a badge that said, witness or whatever. And I was watching. So I'm sitting there by the computers. They've got computers there. The computers are hooked up to the projectors that are on the screen. And they've got a receiver, which is the wireless receiver for these clickers. And the receivers are sitting there hooked up to the computers. And I'm watching this whole thing. I'm standing behind the guy operating it. And I'm watching everyone log into the clicker system. And you can see the totals on the screen of how many people have logged into their clickers. And you can see a total. I saw like 750 or something. And then they would put something up on the screen where people would vote. They'd vote for it. And then this guy would click on some buttons on the screen and put up what he was doing after every vote is he was putting up pre-made slides. He would choose a pre-made slide with pre-made results, put it up on the screen, and it had a percentage and it had a number breakdown of how many votes each one got. And I added those votes up, and there were more votes than there were people logged in voting on the clickers. And I asked him when the numbers didn't match, there were a couple hundred off. And I asked him, why are there more people voting, more votes than there are people logged into the system to vote? And he said, those are anonymous voters. I said, what
Anonymous
anonymous
voters.
voters? What are you talking about? So I looked to the left of me, who was running the GOP. She happened to be sitting there right next to me. I looked to her left, or my left to her, and I said, so why are there anonymous voters in this? Everyone that's out there is supposed to be the voters. And she says, what are you talking about? What anonymous voters? And I said, okay, have you guys met each other? Because literally he's to the right of me. She's to the left of me. He's telling me there's anonymous voters and she voted. So I said, you guys need to talk to each other. What's going on here? And plus, I would like the copy. Can I get a copy of this voting system database? Because I already looked up the software, so I knew what database it created. I knew where it stored the file because I walked in with some knowledge on this, and I asked the guy. I said, "Can you get me a copy of this file?" And he said, yeah, I guess." And she said, "Absolutely, yeah, you can have a copy of the file." And she said, "Bring a USB drive to us right after." So they finished. They did all their stupid little fake voting with their fake little slides. And I walked in with a USB drive and said, "Okay, please put it on here." And they said, "Oh, we're really in a big hurry. We just don't have time, but we'll get it to you. Give me your email address and we'll send it to you right away." So I gave my email address and I got no response. And I found out the next day I get a phone call from someone out in Colorado at their GOP convention, and the same clicker company with the same guy was there running their convention as well with the clickers. So I told them what to watch out for. A week later, I sent another email asking, "Can I have that file?" Another excuse, another week, another excuse. And then after about 3 weeks, they told me they're still processing the results. Well, they already had the election. The results were already there on the screen. What the heck are they processing? And I asked them again. Another week goes by, and they say, "You won't believe this, but unfortunately, the database was irrecoverably damaged, and we can't provide it to you any longer. We're really sorry." And then I found out some other people started asking questions about it, and they were told that the owner of the clicker company had the computers in his garage in Florida, and he had a fire at his house and it burned his garage down. Luckily, it didn't touch his house, but it burned the garage down where the clicker servers were, and they lost all the backups. I mean, can you believe our luck? Us little peasants have such bad luck with this stuff.
Yeah, it's like Maricopa County had that bad luck. Oh, we didn't delete it. We didn't delete it.
Archived.
We
Yeah,
and-
we archived
yeah.
it. We just can't locate the archive.
Uh,
Steve thinks he might be able to play the video, so we're going to give it a shot. If we have audio, then we're going to let it roll. If not, we'll
let it
move
roll
on.
and you talk.
Can I mention
think you know it
something
pretty well,
before we
right?
go with
You
the
guys can narrate.
video? Sorry?
You guys
I
can
just wanna
narrate it.
mention something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So when you hear politicians talking about hand count, and they talk down the hand count as being too expensive, inaccurate, unreliable, it takes too long, that when you say the term hand count, it doesn't necessarily mean all the same thing, right? There's 100 ways to do a hand count, and there's mostly really bad ways to do a hand count. So in the hand count audit that the county does of the machine tabulated votes, what they do is they hand the volunteers a bunch of ballots and say, okay, count this sample ballot, this sample set of ballots, and give us the total, and we'll compare to what we got from the machine, right? But they don't give you any facilities. They don't give you a specific procedure. And so basically, what happens is this group of 4 people at the table, they handle one ballot at a time. And let's say there's 50 races on that ballot. And they handle one ballot at a time and count one race. And then they take the whole packet again and count those 50 ballots that packet of ballots that they got, and they count the next race. And then they handle the ballot again and they count the next race. I mean, that's the worst way to do a hand count. And when politicians talk about hand counts, they're probably referring to a hand count like that, which means you have to really know what they think they're talking about. And that's why we spent so much time to develop our process. We've come up with a hand count method, which is much better than the default uninformed way of doing. So if you've got a politician saying to you, well, that hand count is going to take 275,000 people at $15 an hour for 10 hours, you have no idea what he's talking
Right.
because
The
he could be
people that have
talking about
developed the
worst
processes
case
in the
scenario.
counties, yeah, in the county processes, they set them up in the worst possible way
Right.
to make the hand counts look awful and to scare people away and channelize them away from hand counts and channelize them towards thinking they must use computers. And the citizens since 2020 that have put their work into developing efficient hand count processes, a lot of us have done a really good job at much better ways to do it than the county systems, which they pick the worst, slowest, most error prone to purposely sabotage hand count efforts. It's all by design because they don't want the people counting their own votes. Thank
That's
you. The great
exactly
point,
it.
Chris.
That's
Right.
exactly
You-
it.
you-
And
you
so
know,
we're
in
going to
the-
show you the hand count method that we have developed together. It is trial worn and proven over time and time again. And every time we do it, found little improvements to make. But this is not, a standard hand count that a county is going to present to you in order to make it look. This is the right way to do it.
You want to give it a try there, Steve?
Well, while we're giving it a shot, I just want to point out that it's funny that during the Cochise County litigation, as well as the audit, one of the justifications they used for trying to deny us hand counts or access to the ballots was that it could damage the ballots being counted, right? Yeah,
Right.
Touching them.
right.
Touching them would
Right.
harm them. All right. Sounds like we got audio. So let's roll, guys. Or not. Okay. Did you ask Teresa if she heard any audio?
I did not hear any, but you guys can narrate it just as easily.
I heard noise. Okay, we'll narrate it. I'll do Shelby. Hi, I'm Shelby.
Wouldn't it
There we
make
go.
more sense if Shelby did Shelby?
What's that?
Okay. So what we're talking about here is I, I think we're better off right now, guys, just to let people who are truly
Yeah.
interested to go back in and watch this video at a later time. So go ahead and pull it down, Steve. Oh, Teresa says we did have audio. Do we want to play it or not? Okay. All right. So we're kind of killing time here. So Are we playing the video or are we not playing the video? Okay.
All right. While we're waiting to play the video, do you want to, we the People USA Alliance is a 501c nonprofit organization, and we engage in a lot of litigation to get public records. So we do a lot of work that is fairly expensive, requires a lot of technical processes and computer systems and servers and things of that nature. I'm not very good at asking for money. I've never been good at it, but we need your support, right? We have a www.givebutter.com donation page where you can make a donation and automatically get the paperwork necessary for you to claim your tax deduction and reduce your taxable income. And do you know the site right offhand?
I think we're going to have Steve go ahead and put a link in there, but it's givebutter.com/VMGPIT. So /VMGPIT.
Yeah. And so, any contribution you could make would be greatly appreciated. It would go to a good cause. In ensuring that we can continue talking about these issues because they're very important to the health of our nation. If we want to recover the United States as a constitutional republic, rather than being a group of people who are governed by what they call the election experts, right? A bunch of bureaucrats who tell us who governs us, rather than us counting our own ballots and deciding whether or not who governs us.
Right.
We need your support. So,
on the donation
Terrible
thing,
pitch,
I do
sorry
want to
about
add
that.
this. I do encourage everyone. I know this group of people sitting there at that table. I've known them for years. They are truly amazing patriots. They bust their butt every day, day in, day out. I've worked with them till 2, 3, 4 in the morning. I really haven't run across many people that work as hard as we the people. So if you're at all curious, I guarantee I give them 100% solid. Help them out. Please help this group out. They're going to be, when we save our nation, it will be partly because of the people at that table. I guarantee it.
Well,
Thank you,
thank you,
guys.
and
I'm
you
honored
as well.
honored to know you guys.
Yes. Yeah, and we're very honored to work with you, Mark, and we're grateful you're here today. And the same is true for you. Help out and support Mark. He is truly a patriot that has given his talent, his treasures, his time. He sacrificed so much to educate and to go on the ground. Not too many people are able to give up their livelihood and leave everything behind to literally travel all 50 states to share this message and to educate the people. So we encourage you to donate to Mark as well. And you can do that through handcountroadshow.org. There is a donation page there, and all donations that you send to Mark will help put some fuel in the tank, let him eat a warm meal in a cold place as he's out there providing, teaching. Because you don't charge fees, do you, Mark, when you do these events out in these different counties and stuff?
Oh, you're muted, Mark.
Oh, that. Okay, sorry about that.
Not on screen.
All right, Mark, when you're out and you're giving these presentations, I know sometimes you're offered honorariums or love offerings, so to speak, but you don't have a speaking fee, do you?
Oh, no. No, I don't charge a darn thing at all. I would never. First, I don't want anyone to think I'm doing this for the money, because you look at my account, you see real quickly, no, I'm doing it. I'm losing all my savings doing it. And so I'm not
So
doing
what
it for
you're
the money. I'm
saying
doing
is
it for our nation.
you don't want to hide your tax returns or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. If people have called me a grifter, it's the funniest thing ever. I am a professional reverse grifter, just so everyone knows. I have mastered the art of reverse grifting. And I'm not doing it for that at all. I'm doing it for our nation. I'm doing it for the citizens. And I'll tell you what the most impactful donation I ever got was from a gentleman in Texas. This is like 3 years ago, in a wheelchair. This very older gentleman, late 80s, got some help on his wheelchair. Got up front, and he couldn't talk very loud, so he asked me to get closer so I could hear him. And I was on stage, so I kneeled down and talked to him. And that man, with shaking hands, he couldn't even hold his hands steady, reached into his pocket and he pulled out a crumpled $5 bill and handed it to me with tears in his eyes, thanking me for my sacrifice and what I'm doing for him because he's too old for this fight. And I tried to say no because I could tell it was an important $5 to this gentleman. But you could see in his eyes he wanted so much to help, and that's all he could do to help. So I proudly took that $5. I have that $5 bill hanging on my refrigerator, and it's definitely not about the money. It's about the sentiment, and it's about us Americans helping each other and the good people out there, so many good people crushing the evil that is trying to and is almost successfully attacking all of us. I am freaking proud to take that $5 and drive it all around the nation, and do what I do for my fellow citizens. So yes, I graciously accept any gifts, but it's not about the money at all. It's about our liberty. So
Absolutely. Well, do we want to try the video and
sure,
let's see if we can roll it?
roller.
Yes, that was a very loud yes.
The video's
Got a
coming.
redfish down there.
I'm getting anxious.
Yes, so we're going to give this a try. If the sound doesn't work, we'll go ahead and pull the video down, let you watch it at a later time. But we do encourage you to stick around and listen. Okay, so I guess the audio is not working, which is fine. So we'll post the video in our link. We'll put it on our Twitter. I know Mark shares it, part of Hand Count Roadshow. So remember, handcountroadshow.org. And then you're going to go to Get Educated. Is that right, Mark? And then
Yeah,
you
get
can
educated
select-
and then accountable. It's the first option. Plus, the other website, which will get you right there, is a-count-able.org. So it's accountable, to play on words, with a dash in between. So a-count-able.org will take you directly to that page.
Perfect. Steve, can you put up the blue dot slide, please? I guess you have it referenced as number 6. You can put that up. We're just going to walk through what a basic tally sheet looks like and show you a little bit more about the accountable method. So, as Mark had pointed out earlier, this tally sheet is laid out in a cast vote record style. So, for those of you that have been around elections, you understand elections, then you know that the tabulators produce these records that will say, okay, ballot 1. On ballot 1, here's all the candidates that were voted for. And then it'll go to ballot 2, and it will lay out all the candidates that were voted for. So what we're doing is we're essentially making a people-powered version of that cast vote record so that you get all of those finite details, but you get them performed from paper ballots onto paper. And yeah, go ahead and put it up. Okay, so here is what our tally sheet looks like. And if you if you look at the vertical line, the up and down line on the far left, those represent ballots. We do our batches in groups of 25 ballots so that errors can be easily identified, isolated, and corrected, which reduces time to make error corrections. So in this particular case, there are 30 choices on this ballot, essentially. And so 1 through 30 represents an answer to a question, whether that be a candidate or a proposition or a bylaw or whatever it's representing. So in this particular case, number 1 could represent candidate Joe, and number 2 could represent candidate Sally, or it could represent a pass fail or a yes no on a proposition. So what you essentially do is you have 4 people at the table. You have what we call the caller and quality control, and then you have 2 tally markers. So the caller will go through the ballot and call out the numbers that were selected for the choices. So an example is they would call to the tally marker 1, 4, 8, 11, 15, and 19. And that would be representative of ballot 1. When the caller is calling those numbers out, the tally markers are simply dabbing those boxes, just like you would if you were going down to the VFW and playing bingo. So then they would go to the next ballot and they would call those choices. And representative on this is 1, 3, 4, 11, 15, and 19. Once all of those ballots are marked, then the totals are added for each row. So in this particular example, there are 3 votes for candidate 1. So 3 goes at the bottom. There is 1 vote for candidate 2. Now, the other thing that I want to point out about accountable, and one of the things that we're very proud of, and we can go into more details of how we've seen that played out, is because we're not using candidate names throughout this process, it is nearly impossible for those in the tally room to know who's winning and losing. We've done many elections, and even myself, when I'm in a position where I'm actually chairing or leading these large tally counts, I'm biting my nails in suspense all the way down to the last second because I still don't know what those results are until they are finally aggregated. And with that being said, Steve, if you could put up the next picture in order. Yeah, go ahead,
Well, I
Brian.
just want to ask a question real quick. You said there's a caller, right?
Yes.
But isn't there also somebody observing the caller and the ballot at the same time so that that individual can discern whether or not the caller's calling correctly?
Yeah, so that would be quality control.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a caller and quality control, and then you have 2 tally markers.
Right.
And the way that I prefer to have the method work is the caller watches the QC or quality control watches the caller at all times. And if they misread something, whether it be intentional or unintentional, then the caller will say, stop, that's the wrong number, and correct them. What I like to do is I like to have the callers and the quality control basically interchangeable.
Right.
So as they're switching from batch to batch, they're actually switching roles.
Mm-hmm.
So they're holding each other accountable. To Mark's point, Bob is holding you accountable and
Right.
you're holding Bob accountable. And as long as you have that partner and you're both equally responsible to perform a task, you're more likely to do it with honor and integrity and build those relationships.
Well, one more follow up on that then. You also you said you had 4 people. The other 2 then are both separately and independently marking tally sheets when the caller's calling number.
That's correct. So when you look at the sheet on the screen,
Mm-hmm.
it is one person, and we do X and Y talliers. so that at the end they will add the results and confirm them. This is what an average setup in a small precinct might look like. You're going to have your batch and scanners set up, and then you're going to have a caller and a quality control, and then you're going to have 2 tally markers. And then once all of the batches are totaled, they go to what we call aggregation, where they take all of the collective results of the batches to ultimately give the final result of that that bin, the collection bin, or maybe it's of an entire precinct. And then those aggregated results will then continue to funnel down until you get your final result.
Cool. Sounds like a process designed to catch any errors before they or as they actually happen. If they happen.
Absolutely.
Right.
And again, to your point, Steve, go ahead and I'm sorry, put 6 back up again so that we can really point this out. So you have an X and Y, and each one will do the totals. And then this one is X. If you look in the top left corner, this is one tallier. While those are being called out, there's also a Y tallier. Then at the end, if you go along that bottom row, you'll see the final results of this very short batch of 5, 3, 1, 2, 2, 2, etc. Those totals are then called out between talliers, and both talliers confirm that their results match. If there is an error found, then they would simply cross it out, find the error. What was the miss? Did they mark in the wrong spot? Did they mark the wrong ballot? Is it a mathematical error? And then easily correct it. And then that ensures the integrity. And if you look up top, you'll see where there's somebody who transports the batch to the table. The table number is assigned. When they're done, the tallier signs, and then the caller signs upon possession. But even after all of that, then quality control has to sign, stating that they watched the whole process, everything was accurate, and they watched both talliers compare their results and that they're confident in the process before that batch is aggregated.
You have what's called chain of custody.
Yes, we do.
The ballots are escorted at all times, and the people who actually take possession of those ballots sign for them.
Yes.
And so, yeah, so everybody that touches the ballot sort of has to sign these, and so everybody knows who's involved in the process.
Absolutely. It will be easy to go back and identify what table things occurred at. Ideally, in a great world, some of the laws, unfortunately, are not allowing for it at this time. But in an ideal world, everything should be covered by video. Everything should be scanned and published online. So if you find a problem with the results down the road, you can isolate exactly what table that took place at, but not only what table that took place at, who was involved, and the time it occurred.
Right.
You can take that and cross-reference it with the video and be able to determine and isolate how an error happened and easily isolate it and correct it. Do you have things to add to this, Mark?
Yeah, I wanted to make a comment based on what Brian said, and this is really important to drive this one home. And what I love about this method, it is so easy to spot a mistake, which is really important. And there's 2 main things about this method that I really appreciate. The mean time to detect a mistake, MTTD, is not going to be past a batch. If there's a mistake between tallier X and Y, tally sheets X, Y, tallier A, B, if there's a discrepancy, you never perpetuate that error through the system. You catch it every single batch at the end. If those numbers don't agree, then you know it right then, and you have an opportunity to fix it. The other huge benefit for this system is that it has a very low MTTR also, and that's mean time to repair or resolve, meaning that when a mistake is made, this recovers very quickly. Call it mean time to recover. You recover from the error, you find the error and fix the error very, very quickly in this. People do make mistakes, and at least when people make mistakes, we can see it in this process. When someone makes a mistake programming a machine, or there's a mechanical problem, we sometimes don't detect it until after the election, and then by then it's all too late, right? So if there's a mistake, let's find it right then and have the ability to fix it immediately right there. And that's what's unique about this system, is because people do make mistakes, you have to have a hand count tabulation system that doesn't fall on its face every time there's a mistake made. If every mistake costs you 10 or 15 minutes, that will make a hand count tabulation process take hours and hours and hours longer than it should. Whereas if you have a system that's so efficient that when you do detect an error, that error recovery time is only 15 seconds or 30 seconds, then you end up with a very efficient process taking into account the errors that may occur along the way. Time to recovery is really, really important. So when you're trying to determine which hand count process you want to use, don't just assume everything's always going to be perfect. Plan for the errors and measure that system to see how quickly it responds to those errors, and see if it affects that time that it takes to run through that whole process. And if you look at the accountable calculator, I took into account certain number of mistakes made per ballot and what the recovery time is on those mistakes. So that calculator is very heavily engineered calculator to be very realistic in its timings, and you can tweak all those numbers. So if you have older people doing it with not as great eyesight and not as great ears, then what you might want to do is you might want to increase the amount of MTTR, mean time to recovery, uh, increase that a little bit, and then you'll get a very accurate representation of how quickly that process will run. When we were out there in Vegas on July 4th of this last year, we had an adult table and a kids table. And I'll tell you right now, kids are faster. The kids table was absolutely love doing this. And in fact, I'm going to do this again coming up here in the next month. I'm going to visit a state and we're doing exactly the same thing again because it worked out so well. But the kids just watched the adults for a few minutes, saw what they were doing, and the kids went and sat down. And then in the adults table got handed 15 ballots. The kids table got 15 identical ballots. And then we did a ready, set, go. And the kids, having just watched the process, they weren't trained in the process. They hadn't practiced ever, not one time, but they just watched the adults do it. The kids went and did the whole thing, got exactly identical, correct results, and beat the adults by 2 minutes. That's pretty incredible.
It was really incredible. And it was also, wasn't it encouraging to see these young people um, seem like they want to engage now in their elections? I thought that was, it was really super cool. And we do have some videos of that as well
You know what?
that we need to make available.
You know what would be cool is we could start hitting up school districts, right? Because they have their school elections, right? We could possibly take our program in to different schools and say, hey, you got a election for prom king and queen, you got elections for president, the senior class, whatever. We can come in, teach your students how to do this process, engage them early in the civic process of working in their own elections, and in that way try to help shape and mold. So that's something we really seriously need to consider and look at.
Right.
But I want to
Absolutely.
ask you a question because and this isn't a steep into partisan stuff, because we want hand counts to apply across the board with everyone involved. But I know the Arizona Republican Party has adopted a hand count method, correct?
Right.
And
They are using the accountable method.
right, and so the state party had its elections for state party chair and other positions this past weekend, correct?
That's correct.
And you ran the elections in that, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Right. And so I was watching Twitter during the process, and you get a lot of people out there saying, "Oh yeah, it's 9. We don't have results yet because they're doing it by hand." And that's really completely disingenuous, isn't it? From a bunch of people who weren't there, who didn't know what was happening. Is that right?
Well, it was either people that weren't there and didn't know what was happening, or people who were intentionally trying to conflate facts and data. as we see all the time with our gaslighting politicians, right? So essentially, there were three, if I'm being clear, three entirely separate and segregated rounds of voting.
Right.
And we were able to count two fully.
Let me
Yes.
clarify what that means. Is that there were three separate elections
back to back to back.
That's what that means.
Right.
So there were
Small one.
three ballots given to people to vote, and they weren't all given at the same time, correct? You had the first election, the second election, then the third election.
Correct. And as Chris pointed out, there was also what we call a caucus election, which was a fourth election. So we conducted four distinct elections with four distinct ballot types at the same time. The other thing I want to point out is it's interesting to me that we have people yelling about how quickly they want results. And right now, currently, to count approximately 83 ballot positions, our county in Maricopa is taking three weeks post-election.
Right.
They're beginning the count as soon as early ballots start. So that is nearly 2 months to count 83 ballot positions, right? We counted 1,715 ballots cast with 41 ballot choices or selections in 3.5 hours, using 60% of our volunteer staff had never put their hands on a ballot before, had never worked the method. So we counted 1,715 ballots, which is the equivalent of 2 precincts with untrained staff in 3.5 hours with 41 ballot choices.
And that ultimately demonstrates the simplicity of this method, doesn't it? That you don't have to, have people go, to hours and hours and hours of training in order to be able to work this process in an efficient and an effective manner, right? They can pick it up and pretty much learn in 5 to 10 minutes.
That's correct.
Right.
That is correct. It's very intuitive. So once you understand what you're doing, it flows. So yes, we did not know who was going to be elected as the Arizona GOP chair until 9 p.m. that evening.
Right.
But understanding that involved the first batch of ballots did not hit for the first election, hit our tables until 3:54 p.m. We conducted that entire election, reported all of those results. Our team then gathered ballots for 2 additional elections, began tabulation on one, completed tabulation on the other, and then conducted a second runoff election for the officers and retrieved those results by 8:43 p.m. So if you ask me, that's pretty stinking good odds. And these people that are trying to manipulate the facts to their advantage, we got the receipts, buddy. I'm sorry.
Well,
And we're not still receiving ballots 3 weeks later, and we're trying to count those also.
And what a lot of people are relying on, or what Mark and I talked about earlier, and that's that they're just the quick soundbite, right? The quick soundbite.
Right.
And so if anybody out there is interested in sort of learning and seeing how this process works, all they've got to do is they can email us, at We the People USA Alliance. They can go to legal at WTPUSAA.org.
Yes.
And we will send you information and on when you can be trained so that you can take this method to your organization, save your organization money instead of having to rent out somebody to control your elections. Have your people do it themselves.
Well, and to that point, we have literally trained over hundreds and hundreds of people in the state of Arizona, not including the training that's occurring outside of Arizona. We have people trained now, especially after this last week's election, representative in all 15 counties in the state of Arizona. And one of the favorite discussions I have now, and this this took time, Mark, but initially I would get anxiety when I would do trainings and people would make a lot of mistakes. But then I learned to embrace it
Mhm.
because I realized, yes, all these people are making mistakes, but we can identify it and fix it, and it never changes the outcome. And that is a beautiful thing. And so now, as part of my training, I always ask people how many tables made a mistake,
Mhm.
and I would say at least 50% or more will raise their hand. Some kind of half raise because they're a little embarrassed, and I go, how many of you fixed your mistake very quickly and efficiently? And they all raise their hand huge. And I say, how many of you are confident in this process and that making a mistake can be easily identified and will never impact the outcome of this election? And it's unanimous in the room. People have confidence in this process once they learn it, once they know it. And most importantly, I think Chris pointed it out and Mark pointed it out. Most importantly, after they've seen an error happen and realize, embrace the errors because this process gives you a way out of
Right.
making a mistake.
Yeah.
Earned trust, not mandated trust. I'll take earned
WPP
trust all day long. Oh, we lost you.
You're muted. All right. Well,
Again, legal at
There we go.
WPPUSAA.org.
perfect. So I guess we're going to give it to our guest first. Let's have some closing words, Mark. You'd like to say a final thought before you head out?
Citizens, we can fix all this if everyone takes this opportunity to get involved right now. And there is every single person, no matter what your skill set is, can be a part of this process. Anyone can do something to help us move this ball down the road. Even if you educate one or two other people, great. That's one or two other people that are now educated that weren't before. And if you can support we the people, support we the people, support those that are on the front lines, go to your commissioners meetings. Even if you do nothing else, just show up, be a body. Don't say a word, just be there. I'll tell you what, if you just show up, that makes a difference. There's a part for every single person here in this process. And anyone that wants some assistance, guidance, wants me to hop on remotely and talk to your group of friends or whatever you want, just reach out, contact me. I'm literally devoting myself to my country, my nation at this point. So while I'm still breathing, use me all you can to try to fix this problem. And I appreciate all the support. And you guys, thank you for giving me and helping me with a platform here to be able to get this word out. And again, um, thank you guys for everything. I absolutely so happy to be in the fight, even though it is absolutely insane and crazy every moment. But what a time to be alive.
Absolutely.
Here. Yeah.
And you know what? I can't think of better people to be in the fight than with you, Mark. And we've really appreciated the role that you've played in our journey and vice versa. And I think it's going to be still going to be a long road, and we'll continue to fight alongside you. You got any final words there, Chris?
Well, I think, boy, we said it all tonight. Do not trust the machines. You know, my actual degree is in electronic engineering, and I spent part of my career actually designing computer boards for larger systems. And so I have a special place in my heart for computers. But I can tell you, even from that point of view, that that the black boxes are not to be trusted. As much as that's the center of my expertise and my love of engineering, black boxes are not to be trusted. And the hand count works. Like I said earlier, when you hear politicians talking about hand counts taking too long, being inaccurate, they're talking about something else. They're talking about the worst case scenario that they can come up with to discourage the public from going that direction. Hand count is the only trustable method, and a good hand count method that like the one that we have, gets the job done quickly and it gets it done accurately. It's robust. It's error hardened. So this is the right solution. Let's have confidence in going this direction and go this direction together.
How about you, Brian? Got
I'm
any
going to
final
say,
thoughts?
you know, we're supposed to be, a nation of peoples, and the only way really to stay a nation of peoples, I'm convinced a lot of people now don't want to remain a nation of common peoples, which is why you see so many leftists out there engaging in political violence. But the only way we're going to recover and stay a nation of one people is by coming together and running our elections as citizens, right? So that we can then determine who our elected representatives are. Your candidate wins, that's fine. My candidate wins, that should be fine. We win some, we lose some. But only when we can come back together as a community to count our ballots and to run our own elections, we will never, ever have secure elections. So,
So true.
yeah.
I'm gonna go kind of a different path here. I mean, we've got the profound kind of legal grounding and basis of what we are as a representative republic and how we are the foundation. And then we're hearing from our IT guys. I'm going to go a little bit of a different direction. When I hear the word black box, it kind of parallels a lot of why I'm in this fight, and that is my belief in Jesus Christ, my belief and faith in people in a higher power. And scripturally, it says, whatever is hidden in darkness shall be revealed in light. They are hiding our elections in darkness. And one way that we can reach people and go out and bring forth the greatness and goodness of our faith is to be that light and to expose this darkness that they have created. And so when people ask me, well, what are we going to do? What is the solution? When is this all going to be fixed? What I'm going to say to people is what I always say, and that is, I don't know when, I don't know how, I don't know who, and I don't know where. But what I know is that we are called to go out and be truth tellers. We are called to bring light where there is darkness. And as long as we are faithful to that, then we will expose whatever is hidden in darkness. And just be encouraged, stay in the fight, and continue to be truth tellers, because that is the only way we're gonna ultimately win this battle.
And with that, always
Amen.
remember that most predators hunt at night
Yeah,
in
there
the
you go.
darkness.
Mhm.
Well, Mark, dear friend, an extension of our very big family here. Love you. Keep on charging, my friend, and let us know if we can ever be there by your side for anything. Thanks for being here.
Good to see you again.
Thank
Absolutely
you.
love you guys too, and let's make this happen.
Let's do it. Always a pleasure to have Mark on our show, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're ready to go for the night. What do y'all
I think we are. If you watched, thanks for watching. If you haven't watched, please share with a friend and have them watch. And if you haven't contributed, you should do so now. We would greatly appreciate it. And for myself, I say peace. Have a wonderful night.
Good night and God bless. We forgot to give the where they can go to donate. So the link will be in the description, and it is a Give Butter link. And very awkwardly, go ahead and sign us out, Chris.
Good to see Mark again. Thanks, guys, for attending. Well, I'm there.
All right. And can we close out? Good night again.